name is Abby Costello, and I'm the Watershed Education Specialist for Medina County Soil and Water Conservation District. And today I am presenting our urban Enviroscape, and we have another Enviroscape model that we also lend out to the public and to teachers. This one is a little more complicated. It is a glimpse at some of what happens to our stormwater and to our drinking water and our wastewater. So in this model, I'm going to show just a little bit of how this model is set up and some of the things that it can show to students or to other people that you might be presenting this model to. So first of all, we have a very good landscape that represents some of our more urban parts of Medina County. We have our city, we have our industry, we have a water tower, our drinking water facility, residential, commercial, our wastewater treatment plant, our forest, and of course agriculture, and our rural home. So it does a very good job at representing Medina County. Our other model includes a lake and does not include the drinking water and wastewater treatment plants. So each one has its own benefit. We're not going to go deep into how to use this model, but it's a great model for showing what happens under our streets. As you can see, this street picks up, and there are some tubes that go underneath our street. These channels, you can see, come to our lake. They come from our storm drain down into our stream and into our lake. They come from our city, and this is human waste that goes down and gets treated in our wastewater treatment plant. So these channels represent two different types of wastewater. This is our wastewater, this is our stormwater. Stormwater does not get filtered, wastewater does. And then we also have our drinking water that comes from our drinking water treatment plant and our water tower into our city. So that is what those represent. I'm going to put the road back on and zoom back out and show a little bit more of how this model is used. We can talk a little bit about point source pollution, which would be where we know pollution is coming from. We see the point and the source of it, and that would be something like our factory. If we had some factory waste right here, we could put it in our factory right here. And we could see what happens when it starts to come out. You can start to see that we have some coming out of our tube right here into our wetland. And let me try to get that to come out a little bit more. But so our little factory shows us that point source pollution can be filtered through a wetland, and that is what a lot of factories used to do and still can do. So you can see that some of the waste that was in the tube was coming straight out and getting filtered through our wetland. There's also the waste that is going out, and that is representing human waste. So I'm going to do a little more human waste into the sewer. I'm going to do some more into the sewer here. There is also sewers for the house. So I'm going to put some into that house right there. So that is also sewage coming from people. And then there is one down that goes into our septic system, and we could show that our septic does get filtered through different layers of the earth. But I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to get our felt all soiled up. So we all know that when we use the restroom that we flush our johns, or our toilets. So I'm going to add that water in here, get it going. We're going to add some water into our house right there that also is using the restroom. And this is when we can pull those roads up and start to see where that wastewater is going. You can see that in this tube right here, it is a more brownish color, and that goes straight to our wastewater treatment plant. Within our wastewater treatment plant, we have it stocked up, and here's where it would get filtered. So you could, as a teacher, put something like a cotton ball in here, and that would filter out, that would act as filtration, because once this gets filtered, it will go straight into the creek. So I'm going to zoom in on that. So in this close-up, you can see how much dirtier the water is. If we wanted to, we could put things like sprinkles in here too to represent actual waste, and that would get stopped by our little screen at the very beginning. But if you were to put some cotton swabs in here, then you would be able to see that this would get filtered out before it returns into our streams. So our water right there is filling up, and you can see that it is slowly going to flow back into our streams. And that is what happens at a wastewater treatment plant in a very simplified manner. It goes through, the waste settles down, it gets clarified, it gets chlorinated and filtered, it gets dechlorinated and filtered, and then it runs back into our waterways. And if we look at our drinking water treatment plant, we could see the same thing, where water, this is going to be water that we pulled from our lake, is going to get poured back into here. And this is water that I just pulled out of the lake. So it is going to get filtered through our cotton swab, which takes quite a bit of while. For the ease of this model, I'm going to remove it. And you can see that the water flows into our water tower. So there it goes. So once it's filtered, it goes into our water tower. And then where does that go? If I remove this little stopper right there, you can see that it goes to our drinking water, to our city, and to our house. So each step of the process gets filtered many different ways, and that is how our wastewater goes back into nature, and how from nature it gets pulled into our drinking water and treated again, and then is returned to us for drinking. Now here you can see that our wastewater that is right here coming out from our city and from our factory is separate from our drinking water. And this is our water that goes to the houses. Now, it is also, our wastewater is separate from our stream water. What I'm going to do is add a couple colors into here so we can see what would happen if those two mixed. So I'm going to add a little bit of red into our wastewater, and that is just going to represent a little bit of just like a human waste, just a brighter color that we're able to see. Now on land, people often put things like fertilizer on plants that they like, and we could put ton on here, but we're not going to. We're just going to do a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit of water to show that when it rains, what goes on into the earth will go into our storm drain. So here we go. We see it's our storm drain, and it's going straight into the creek. Now what happens if we put some more of that red in here for the human waste? Oops, that might be a lot. And we have a crack in the system, so I'm going to remove this little divider right here that separates the two pipes, and we're going to see what happens when it starts raining, or actually I should say when people start using the restroom and there's not a divide anymore. You can see that the red starts mixing in with our green, and that's the human waste getting into the storm drain. And that storm drain is now leading it straight into our creeks and our rivers and our lakes. So this is a great example of how we need to keep our wastewater, our stream water, and our drinking water all separate. Now, if there were two pipes right next to each other, like the drinking water here and the wastewater, and goodness gracious, let's say that this never happens, but if there was a break here, you could still get some of that cross-contamination. So that's why it's very important to have all these systems very, very separate, so that they can get filtered before they are returned into our streams and lakes. And the same goes with our septic. You want to make sure that they are kept up so that the filters work, because if this filtration doesn't work, that's going to get out into our streets, into our yards, and back into our streams. So that is a little bit about our stormwater and drinking water and wastewater issues. But we're going to talk a little bit about non-point source pollution, where we don't know where the pollution's coming from and how that influences our streams too. I'm draining our lake so that we can learn a little bit about non-point source pollution. I'm putting our roads back on since we're done with the storm water and the drinking water and wastewater. And we're going to talk a little bit about our land uses. We've talked about our water uses, but there's a lot of time that we use land and we dig it up and we get our soil in different places. Like if we're starting new construction and people are building houses, you get soil places. If people are tilling their farms, you get loose soil. And soil is one of the biggest pollutants for our water. So you're driving around, you're getting soil everywhere too. just sprinkling it on the roads. There we go. Let's say you also live in an apartment and your neighbors don't take care of their apartment, so you guys start getting bugs. So you start trying to put some insecticides around everywhere. And let's say you have some bug problems at your house, so you put insecticides there. Or if you're on a farm and you want to keep them off of your crops, you put some out there too. Also, you can have the issue of animal waste. Let's say you have some cows or maybe some dogs or pets and you're not cleaning up after your pets. So now you have other pollution on the ground too. What happens to all of this? Well, I'm going to show you when we make it rain. So you can start to see that some of this is getting activated. So I'm going to come over here and start spraying on our farm. Start spraying on our house. Start spraying on our soil where we have new construction going on. And you can start to see that we are finding some pollution getting into our water. Now, when it rains, you might notice that your water is going into the storm drain, which then we already showed goes right into our streams. So this all right here would end up going down into our lake. And that is where we eventually get our drinking water pulled from. So the more waste we have on the earth, the more it gets into our lakes, the more it hurts the animals that live in those lakes, and then the more resources we have to use to clean out our lakes so that we have drinking water. So what about people that have wells and don't get their drinking water from the city or from the lake? Usually wells go down into an aquifer, which is protected by an impervious layer of rocks. So what I'm going to do is try to pull out some of this water. And there's water in this pipe and it is nice and clear. So our water, here we go. Our water coming from the aquifer doesn't have any of this pollution in it. There's also a well right over here. And let's check if this one's going into the aquifer too. It is. So a well can be a good source of nice clean water, and it doesn't take all the resources that cleaning the other water does. However, if this were not to go all the way down into the aquifer, it would be pooling from groundwater, and that could have all of this pollution in it. So it's important to know where your well water comes from. So I hope that this display has shown a little bit about what kind of lessons can be taught when it comes to drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater, and whether something is a point source or non-point source pollution. This model is able to be leased out from Medina Soil and Water Conservation District. And if you have any questions about your water and how to improve its quality when it comes to surface water, not well water or drinking water, but surface water like what you have in your creeks, you can contact us at Medina Soil and Water. If you have questions about your drinking water, you can contact the health department. And if you have interest in renting this out, reach out to us. We're happy to help. And check out our description below. We will have links to resources that can be used with this lesson. And please like our video and subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, and check us out on Instagram. Thank you very much. Bye.